Hey guys, September 15th, 2023, and I'm just doing an update on my ALIF surgery that I had done a little over 6 weeks ago. It's kind of a update from my first video that I put out that was 2 weeks post-op. So I took some notes this time, and so I've got some different things I'm going to cover there, so it's going to be a little bit longer on this video. I'm going to do kind of a quick recap from the surgery, what I've been doing, where I am, and then in the end I've got some tips and also some things that that I bought that helped me that may help you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with I am 6 weeks 3 days post-op for my ALIF procedure, and on that again, the ALIF that I had done, because I think there's different versions, they make about a 2.5 incision below the belly button. A vascular surgeon does that. They go in, they push your guts to the side, and then the spine doctor comes in. He has full access to the front. He, in my case, spondylolisthesis, bone on bone, so they had to jack up, restore the height. They put a cage in there, bone graft, screw it down at L5 position, close everything up, and then flip you over, and I have 2 incisions on my back. They're probably about 1.5 inches long, either side of the spine. He goes in, and the spine surgeon, and then puts in the hardware from the back, the pedicle screws. So there's 4 screws, 2 on each side, and then a rod on each side. So everything is pretty secure, front and back, between the cage and then the hardware. So that's what I had done 6 weeks and 3 days ago. So as far as the procedure in the hospital, I was in the hospital 3.5 days. Some people go, I think, faster. For me, the hang-up first couple days was, I think, anesthesia and nausea. They want you up and moving the first day. It took me a couple days really before I could get up, and my motor skills were not totally out of whack with nausea. So anyway, 3.5 days. I was out of there, came home, and one of the first things I noticed, now my L5 on the left side, I had tingling before the surgery and numbness going down into my foot, and I didn't really notice it in the hospital, but between the drugs and the stockings that they had on, I guess that's why I didn't really notice it. But after I got home, I could tell it was there still, and which I wasn't surprised, because in my case, that it'd been bone on bone for some time, so that nerve root had been compressed. We had talked about it with the doctor. He basically said that nerve damage takes a while to repair. So if you have that going on, just know that it's going to take a while. But anyway, one of the first things I noticed after coming home, going to sleep, I was having some kind of an issue with like a restless leg syndrome, where I was waking up like every couple minutes, and never really had that before. And so I called into my doctor's office, the surgeon, and talked about it. They ended up putting me on gabapentin. So first time for me. Basically it calms the nerves down, I guess, and the doc pretty much also said that's typical of a nerve that's been compressed for so long. You uncompress it, now it wants to start talking any hour of the day. So anyway, so they put me on that, and then there's a whole lot of things you can't do, and for me, basically the things you could do is just walk. And so that's pretty much what I did at various lengths. In the beginning, all I could do was walk a half a block down the street, and for me, it was my right side. Don't know why, between the hip and over towards the upper right glute area, they just ached. I mean, like I had been in the gym all day and it just ached. That was the biggest thing that held me back from, you know, walking any further. So, and I think I commented on this on the first one, that you'll read various things with people that come out of surgery first day. They're not playing tennis or anything, but they're walking a mile or more. And I think I had said, you know, the fact that if you're one of those people, kudos to you, because that definitely wasn't me. But we all heal differently. And so I think for me, because on my right, on the back, or one of the incisions was, underneath the skin around that incision, it was stiff, but almost like a deck of cards under there. The left side didn't really have it as much, so I took that. Probably more work was done on the right side, and maybe it was so tight it was pulling on the right lower. Don't know, but anyway, that was my biggest hang up for about 3.5 weeks, and then that seemed to dissipate as far as the aching when I would walk. So let me see here. So like I said, I made some notes. In the hospital, the incisions, coming home, the incisions, they're daily basically dressings that I had to deal with. I think it was day 5 before I was allowed to shower, and but I was changing the dressings out daily, and between the dressings and the band-aid, so to speak, it's a bandage that you put on. By day 5, my skin basically, it had it. I was breaking out as far as red, like rashes around where the adhesive goes down, and I looked on the internet. I guess it's not all that uncommon. So that was one of the things I had to battle with. That they don't want you in the shower before then, but yet they want this this big old bandage thing on there to keep, you know, and you got to keep changing the dressings daily if there's wet or, you know, wetness on there, and mine was. So I had no choice but to do that. So by day 5, I had had enough. I started showering. They said it was fine at that point. So day 5 cleared for that. My medication, I guess, you know, this was, as I commented before, this was a 3.5-day hospital visit for me, and that's the longest I've ever been in the hospital. So with that comes pain medication, and when I did my first video, I was only on at that point, because that was a 2-week video, the Oxycontin is what they gave me for pain, but I was only on it at that point at night, just to help me sleep. So interestingly enough, since this was the longest hospital stay I've had, or biggest surgery I've had, not being on a prescription like that for that length of time, you know, I had heard about addictions and things like that, and actually I watched, they have a Netflix video or show on it. It's a series, I think. And I was interested, since I actually was taking it, you know, during my recovery, and I found it very interesting. But I gotta say, thankfully for me, I don't see how I'll necessarily ever fall into that category, because for me, the prescriptions that I had for pain, Oxycontin, all it did was just take the edge off. I mean, it didn't put me into like cloud 9, want to just take continuous naps and I'm out of it. Not at all. It took the edge off, and that's all it did. I was aware that I was still very sore. Just it took the edge off. What it did do is, it was almost 6 days before I could drop a deuce. I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it, but a bowel movement. So even though I was on laxatives, which at the end I'll put it down there what I was taking, but the hospital was giving me stuff. I came home twice a day. I was taking, I think, Miralax, but so that plays heavily into your bowels, and so I didn't like that either. And also, for me, at least being a male, urinating, it's like your bladder control. You stand over the toilet to pee, and it's like it would turn on and it would turn off. It turn on and it's like, I gotta pee. Well, why are we doing this? Make it happen. So I blame it on that too. So I was glad to be off that stuff. So hopefully, if that's what they give you, you don't have any issues, and and obviously don't become addicted to it, because apparently that is or was a problem. So anyway, muscle relaxers. I also had some of those, especially for my right, as I said before, my right back muscle area, low back, it would tighten up, and in fact your right glute back there, if you tighten it up, it was like it was constantly, I didn't even have to try, it was constantly tight. So anyway, so medication, some comments in here. On these videos that you watch on back surgeries and stuff, you will see where people talk about having good days and bad days. Until you've actually had this procedure, you don't really know what that means. I didn't. I certainly do now. I would say as you start doing more, especially early on, we're only talking a couple weeks into it, so it's not like I'm building, decks or working on vehicles or anything like that, but walking more exercise, things like that. I was about 3 weeks, one day I was out walking. It was a nice day in the middle of this. I live in Texas, North Texas, and it's been like 1,000 degrees out, but we actually had a nice day. And I was thinking, man, I feel really good. This is a great day. And that was while I was walking, like I said, 3 weeks in a day. And that night, I walked a little bit too much. When I say a little too much, it was probably, at 3 weeks, it was maybe 2 miles, maybe a little over 2 miles, 2.5 miles. I was sore. Don't know if it was just that or combination of things, but in fact, it was about almost 2 days that right side was very sore. Had to take another muscle relaxer to calm things down a little bit, but so it can go just from good to bad, just like that. And so I totally get when they say good days and bad days. So you're going to have them. Part of my recovery after I got home, I don't know if everybody does this, my surgeon set up home health care. And basically it was 7 days out, PT guy, they come out. And I think it was fantastic, because not knowing what you can do or can't do, there wasn't a lot of things that we could do, but we worked on some mobility, just between lying in bed, standing up, moving your leg out to the side, behind you, laying on the bed, leg raises, towards the end, a little bit of some bridges, some very modified, simple, kind of like squats, which I think also helps with using the toilet, depending on your setup in your bathroom. So anyway, it was all, I think, very helpful to get me to the next level, which is where I am now. I just started outpatient PT. 2 days ago, 3 days ago. So pretty happy about that, and looking forward to the next, chapter here to move forward with this. So setbacks. Well, before I get to setbacks, my 2 week. I had my last video I did at 13 days. So it was 2 days later I had my 2 week post-op, and went in, did the I didn't know if they do an x-ray or not. They did, and I will include that in my video here, but I didn't see the doctor. I met with the PA, but she was very knowledgeable as far as the whole process. In fact, I think they're usually in the surgery too, so at least to some extent. But anyway, everything looked great. All the hardware was where it was supposed to be. The incisions looked great. We talked about where I was, pain-wise, the incisions, keep an eye out for any signs of infections. So everything seemed like it was right on track, and so I was very pleased with that. They said I could start driving at 2 weeks, even though honestly it was probably about 3.5 weeks before I felt it. It was just uncomfortable getting in and out of a vehicle and shit turning, and so I waited till about 3.5 weeks for me. But your vehicle could vary, I guess, be different. So setbacks. So 4 weeks. I was icing one day. I was just been walking and such. I come back, and I did my little home health PT, very simple little things, and then I was icing. I had my ice pack. I'm laying in bed icing, and I get up, and I go to rub my back. Not necessarily a scratch or anything, just a quick little rub, and I noticed my finger was kind of wet, and I was like, okay, and I looked at it, and it had a little tint of red to it, and I thought, okay, that's weird, and I tried to wipe around a little bit more, and I really didn't see anything else. I thought, wonder what caused that, or what that's about. So anyway, I showered, had dinner, and then after dinner, I asked my girlfriend to I wanted to take a look to see if there was anything more to what I had seen earlier. I hadn't had a shirt on the whole time, so it's not like a shirt would have interfered with it. So I said, can you take a look just to see? And she took a look, and she says, yeah, you're leaking. And so my left incision on my back was weeping, and I was like, what? And so she took some pictures and then showed me, and the very bottom of the incision, I guess there must have been a small infection, and it started leaking, come open, whatever you want to call it. But there was pus in combination of that, and some blood, and it was coming out. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't green or smelled nasty or anything like that. But anyway, so I called the next morning. It was still doing it, and I called the doctor's office, talked about it, and sent them the pictures, and they said that they're going to put me on an antibiotic, which they did, and they said they weren't terribly concerned about it. They said what it appeared to be is probably the stitches, dissolvable stitches inside when you get sewed up. Now the outer ones on the skin, that was just glued closed for me, but underneath you have stitches from when they cut you inside, and the thought was one of those probably poked up into the an incision and created an opening. So anyway, I dealt with that. It was like a cycle of anytime it would try to halfway dry up. Anytime I washed it, and initially I was using a washcloth, and then I thought, well, maybe I'm being too aggressive, and I just was using a finger and soap and water. I think, but anytime basically that water would hit it, that would kind of dissolve what kind of glue the body lays down. The process would start over again. And so I dealt with that for 7 days, didn't change. I called the doctor's office back again, talked to them. They changed my antibiotic, said to keep doing what I'm doing. It finally, it was about 5 days later, it quit after that. So, and it was about a day or two later, then I went in for my 6-week checkup, which was the beginning of this week. So anyway, I was a little confused by that, but a minor setback. And after talking to the doctor, my thought is the stitches that he talked about probably did. As I mentioned, so I live in North Texas, and it's been ungodly hot this summer. I got a feeling with all the walking they want done, I'm out there in the middle of the afternoon in 105. I think some days were 110. I got this black brace strapped on, walking out there sweating, and I'm guessing that that stitch that poked a hole up there, and then the sweat bacteria came in and created a little infection. I'm not a doctor, but that would be my guess is exactly what happened. So anyway, but it's all resolved now. Everything's closed up, you know, no issues. I finished the antibiotics tomorrow morning. So it was a 10-day on the second batch they gave me. So I'll be done with those tomorrow morning. So, as I mentioned, the 6-week checkup, had that. At this time it was with the doctor. This is the first time I've seen him since the surgery, so we had a lot to talk about. Since I'd seen him, I was either out of it or out from anesthesia. So I had a lot of questions that I asked him and talked about, which you know, was helpful. But as far as he took another x-ray, everything still, you know, right where it was, everything looked great. Talked about pain level. So for me, my pain level is, right now I'm sitting, I mean, if I really wanted to push it, maybe a 2. Probably borderline 1, but anyway, standing, not really anything. You know, I think most of that is just a little bit of some mild surgery as far as incision area. I guess a little bit of pressure maybe as far as around the bone or something. I don't know, you know, what that 1 is, but anyway, medication wise, all I'm taking at this point now is the gabapentin. I'll probably be taking that probably a couple months, and a couple more months, and then or maybe another 2 months, and then be weaning off that, I think. I did PT today, so I'll probably have a Tylenol tonight, but other than that, that's it. So I'm walking right now between 4 to 5 miles a day, and mind you, that's not all in one walk. So just so you know, and you know, you're gonna have to gauge it yourself if you're having the surgery done, as far as how much is you want. Enough to get some movement, you know, circulation and things. And like I said before, is you're gonna see too much. doing too much. So don't try to gauge it by anybody else as far as you need to do 2 miles a day or you need to do 5 miles a day. You do you. That's the best way to think about it. But anyway, yeah, so that's kind of where I am today. I think my weight limit got brought up some, up to 30 pounds, which kind of floors me a little bit. But obviously the bending, lifting, twisting, you know, lifting a little bit, you know, the 30, but the bending and twisting, you know, that's still a no. So, but let me see, what else do I got on here? So other than that, I have I've got a bunch of things that that I used. I'm gonna put them kind of in order of how, I guess, how much I use them or how important they were to me. So you can kind of, if you're having a fusion surgery, you can kind of base it on that as far as that way you're not buying, because you know, I watched a bunch of videos before the surgery and I saw a bunch of things like, well, do I buy this, do I buy that, and so back brace, that's the number one thing. I'm not wearing it today. 6 weeks out, he said that I didn't have to wear it anymore, so unless I wanted to, but that came from the hospital. So but I used that the most. I mean, if I wasn't showering, sleeping, or sitting, it was pretty much on. So back brace. Shower stool. The thing I'm on. Right there. I didn't know really how much I needed that until I got home from surgery, and every bathroom's different. So they gave me an apparatus when I came home from the hospital to use as a toilet support / in the shower. I got an old house, small showers, small tubs is what they are. So I have room for that old apparatus. So I bought this, which would fit in my bathroom tub, and that was probably the second biggest thing I used the most of. Once I could start showering, you can do all this up to about your knees is about it in the beginning, and there's no way you're getting your feet. That was, I mean, for me, probably the first week to 10 days, if you don't have a second person, somebody to help you, that first 10 days, that's tough. That's very tough, because besides, you know, all the other things, you know, that you take for granted in life that get done, just trying to shower, wash your toes, your feet, your lower legs. So the stool helped tremendously. I was able to at least sit and then kind of, you know, wash. So that was a huge help for me for about the first 3 weeks, I would say. Then I was able to kind of start weaning off of it. So ice packs, you know, whatever, not the kind you throw in your lunchbox, but in the soft kind you can lay on, like at PT that they have. You've probably had something like that before. You can't ice too much, especially early on with all the incisions, the surgery, swelling and everything else. So you're walking, icing. So those used quite a bit. The hospital, and I'm going to leave some pictures of these things as far as on this video, but the hospital, another item that they give you when you go home is it's your little, it's like a half moon little cup, little trough, spit. I call it a spit trough, cup, whatever. When I came home, brushing my teeth, you can't just bend over into the sink and spit out your toothpaste and, you know, put water in your mouth or whatever. That motion's not there. You can't do it. So as opposed to me from standing up here spitting and having it go everywhere, that little cup, tray they give you, then you rinse it out. So I use that in the beginning a couple times a day whenever I brush my teeth. So that was a huge one. Like I said, the hospital gave me that on discharge as well. The grabber tool. You see people on these surgeries that have that, you know, the deal, and I say I'll have a picture later in the video, but you drop something on the ground because you can't bend over. You can't get down on the ground to get it early on. It's just not really feasible to do it. So I used my toes actually to pick some things up, but the grabber tool I use quite a bit too for things. So that was real helpful. And then lastly, I'd say the walker. Coming home from the hospital, they discharged me with a walker. I would say I used that probably the first, I used it exclusively in the hospital. And then after I got home, probably the first 3 to 4 days. I did not walk initially when I got home outside. I walked in the house around, you know, the living room, such like that, with the walker. So I would say it was helpful early on, for sure. But you know, its time is short. You'll move on quickly. And actually, for me, I moved on from the walker to I have a cane that somebody gave me a few years ago as a joke. It's been hanging in my closet, and I brought it out. I actually used it for probably, again, it had a short life too, but probably 3 to 5 days when I was walking around the block. And it just helped me with confidence of walking, you know, to get my bearings and not lose my footing and trip. So so that may be something, if you have, you know, that you'll get a little bit of use out of as well. I did not use the portable toilet thing. Like I said, the one they gave me from the hospital, the way it's situated, I have a fairly small bathroom situated in the bathroom. It just did not sit around my toilet very well, and I have 2 bathrooms. Now, one toilet is a little lower. I had measured it before the surgery, but one is a little lower than the other one. The one in my main bathroom is about 2 inches higher. So honestly, for me, I didn't need anything because my bathroom counter is so many inches away, and I could use that as support. And from, you know, riding bikes and things like that, you know, I guess my quadriceps, hamstrings were good enough shape that squatting down wasn't terribly difficult for me. So I did not need any apparatus as far as to sit down on a toilet on. So depending on your bathroom, you know, you may, but you'd have to take some measurements, and there's a lot of different things they sell for doing that. So. I think that covers just about everything. So I plan on, I see him again, my surgeon, at the 3-month mark. So in another roughly 6 weeks. So that's about the time I will update this again. I don't see a real big gain as far as a weekly update, because as I said, what I noticed is things are going to vary day to day, and it's all part of the healing process. So as opposed to getting concerned about you know, oh my gosh, I got this new pain, or I feel great today, and then tomorrow, there's no point in trying to update. As far as, that's kind of why I also waited a little longer to get all that in, so you have a broader picture of the whole process. So for me, it'd be from week 2 to 6, so it was a month. But and included in there with me a little bit of an infection that came on too. So, you know, a whole gambit of things. But you know, like the doctor told me though, I'm feeling pretty good. And this, I'm coming in now to the point of, this is kind of the dangerous time, because this is when people start having accidents. And because you as you're feeling a little better, a little stronger, you take it for granted and you start doing things that your body's not ready for yet. Because you have just had if you've had this like I have, you've had a major surgery. And so even though you're not wearing a brace, you know, that's a reminder if you've got that on. But if you're not, you just need to be conscious of that. Now for me, I start back to work next week. I have an office job, so I'm not digging ditches or anything physically. Otherwise I'd still be out, I'm sure. But you know, just the endurance of between driving back and forth to work, standing, sitting, whatever. I got a feeling next week is probably going to be another tough week. You know, it's the ups and downs. I'm going to get wore out, I'm sure, real easy. And but again, it's part of the healing process. And just don't do anything stupid, as far as thinking you're strong enough that you can do things that you shouldn't. When I was talking to the doctor, he said you'd be surprised at how many people end up having to have a redo of something with their surgery, because they were cleaning a tub, or you know, they were bent over inside their front loading washer and dryer and getting things out of there. And it's like, no, you're not ready for that. That's one of the reasons that grabber tool, I have that, because I have front loaders, grab clothes and stuff out of there. You know, it's, so be smart about it. And the x-rays, when you have your x-rays done as far as a fusion, I wasn't sure exactly what to expect on that, but you can see barely some, it looks like clouding is what it looks like. But at 6 weeks, it's a little bit soon to pick up on a whole lot of that. He explained it to me that at 3 months is when you can really start picking up on the fusion process on an x-ray. So anyway, like I said, I will include in there, as far as the items that I talked about, as far as some items to get. Somehow I don't think I marked it on there, even though I know I took a picture of it, but laxative, Miralax, add that to your list of things too. You're going to need that early on after you get home from the hospital. So anyway, we will, if I think of something else, I'll throw it on there, but otherwise I will update this at the 3-month mark when I have my next visit. So if you're having this procedure done, again, the two biggest things to I think a successful back surgery, and I'm still early on. I got, you know, a lot of time to go before I can write this down as a success. But I think one is doing your research. Find a surgeon that you are comfortable with, has great reviews, has experience that you get along with. I think there's a lot of doctors that are they might be good at their skill, but they suck. Their bedside manners or people skills, they suck. So I don't want that. So do your homework. You find a successful surgeon, and then the other half is the recovery. That's on you. You got to do the recovery. You got to be walking and pushing yourself. You know, when you say pushing yourself, you know, especially early on, it's just getting up and moving. It's not like you're, you know, having to lift, you know, a bunch of weight and stuff. You're just talking about getting up and moving. So you got to do it. And then some PT, you know, that comes next. So what you put into it's what you're going to get out of it. So hopefully you're having a successful surgery if you're watching this, and or if you're getting ready to have one. I hope that everything goes well for you, and that you're not having complications if you've had one. So I haven't been there. I hope not to go there, but anyway. All right, we'll see you in about 6 weeks. All right, take care.